you're 100% right, Zach, about Cenk being at his heart a corporatist, a capitalist, someone who wants to extract money from progressives and then lie about them as soon as they're no longer profitable for him and his company. And I think no clip illustrates this better than the one we're about to take a look at. Again, before we get back into Mondale's statement, this is absolutely wild. I couldn't believe that we'd missed it, bro. I'm like, how did we not do a segment on this when this aired?
Bro, I have no idea. I saw this clip and I was beside myself. Shout out to Hank, one of the whistleblowers about the union busting tactics. If anybody's looking for an editor on a freelance basis, he does incredible work. If you want to support his documentary, Tell the Truth, Cenk, you can hit him up. I believe he's Winners and Losers on YouTube, but his name's Hank Thompson, and he tweeted this out. And I was absolutely aghast at this, guys. This is like one of the things that typically is a line in the sand for folks is family. Even the most like shrewd businessmen, even the folks that are like, man, I'm a real greedy capitalist. They take care of their family, right? And so there was this whole perception that Hasan Piker was kind of a Nepo guy, right? That he hadn't really earned his success, and this completely dispels that. Now, we've never been Hasan Piker haters. I think all of his success is tremendously beneficial to the left. I want as many young kids watching him instead of deranged right-wing lunatics, right? I don't want them watching Fresh and Fit. I don't want them watching Dan Bilzerian. I want them on the blue pill. And I don't know anything about Twitch. I don't know anything about video games. I think Hasan Piker is a great guy to reach that demographic. However, a lot of people, they don't understand how hard he worked to get where he is, and they don't understand that Cenk tried to exploit him at every turn, and the advertising arm is one of the most shocking elements of that. So be sure to pay attention to that. We'll unpack it all.
And Zach, you were the first thing that I thought about when I watched this is a comment you made while we reacted to Cenk's giving. You were like, I can't believe Hasan has the patience for this motherfucker. Like, I can't believe he's willing to sit there and allow Cenk to talk over him on his own stream and disrespect him constantly. That I think is now magnified like 100 now that we know the reality of the situation. Because at any point during any of the Cenk's givings, Hasan could have just dropped this bomb. He could have just confronted Cenk and been like, "Oh, you think you're so progressive? Let me share with my audience real quick the reality of the situation while I worked at your media company." This is mind-blowing, guys. I genuinely can't believe we've never talked about it on air.
Yeah. I interned there, and I wanted to move to Los Angeles anyway. Mm-hmm. And my uncle was like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to hire someone and skirt some serious like labor regulations because his family. Sure. I worked at the Young Turks, and I made I think my first year salary was like $21,000. Like it was under the...
That's like this.
I got money back from the government, so I started doing ad sales at the Young Turks, and they needed someone to do like direct ad sales, and they had no idea. They had nothing. Like they had no program dedicated to selling ads and inventory. So I basically built that out. Right. Advertisement, sales, and operations in its entirety.
Oh wow!
Because I got on Facebook, and they were like, "You're just going to do all of our Facebook stuff.
Wow!
Like you're demoted." No longer are you doing sales. You're going to do Facebook.
Well, that's because your uncle was letting everybody steal your sales deals. That's true.
His
uncle would let him massage a sales deal to the last thing, then someone would swoop in and close it and take the commission.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
You hear that shit?
Yeah, I don't know who that guy is with him. If anybody in chat knows, let us know. It might be a longtime homie that was like, bro, I know this T. Your uncle, like I'm backing you up right here. But that's crazy. So not only did he build out an advertising arm, not only should he be credited as like one of the upper echelon folks at TYT, not only should Cenk be grateful for the fact that he figured it out, because Hasan is handsome and beautiful, and I'm probably I would imagine a great salesman, right? So he would massage the clients and then feed it back to people he couldn't as easily exploit. That's Will Neff. Interesting. Well, shout out to Will. It's his best friend. Yeah, so this is his boy next to him. It'd be like if Gavin had gotten exploited by his uncle and I knew all of the tea and he was finally ready to come out. I'd be like, that asshole. Like, you know what I mean? I wouldn't have been as chill.
Listen
as
to this
Will.
shit, though. It's crazy.
I just sales deal to the last thing, then someone would swoop in and close it and take the commission.
Oh, yeah.
And his uncle would be like, them's the break. So it's interesting because his uncle basically at this point tries to whiplash this. Basically be like, I did all this to motivate you.
Are you on good terms with your uncle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still love him. But I mean, he was
but it's just...
And again, this guy is not a member of the Vanguard, the long-haired gentleman here, apparently that's Hasan's good friend or best friend. This guy is not like, he's not part of the vanguard. He has nothing to, he just doesn't want to take down the Young Turks. He's just telling what happened. Like, he's just like, yeah, this is my friend. He's probably vented about it or whatever. Now I'm going to repeat it on this episode of Hot Ones or whatever the fuck they're on, Chuckle Chicken Sandwich or some shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just some normie podcast where people aren't super invested in TYT gossip. But it's still a crazy story, right? Most people listening to this episode of whatever the podcast, they probably don't even know what TYT is. They probably just know who Hasan is. Even people in our chat still don't know that Hasan is Cenk's nephew, right? Still, some people are still like mind blown when they realize that, right?
Yeah, Hasan got all the looks.
Yeah, but it's still a crazy anecdote, just to tell on a podcast. Like, oh yeah, did you tell the story yet about how your uncle literally exploited you and underpaid you and let a bunch of his other employees steal your commission money at the last second after making a sale? That's crazy. Imagine being a salesperson for any company. I mean, no one wants to do that. Making someone else rich, essentially getting in contact with people so that someone else can profit. You get the deal, and then you don't even get a fucking commission because your dumb, annoying fucking uncle gives it to another employee, even though you're his fucking blood, you're his family. That's fucking outrageous, bro. That is outrageous.
Oh, it's unfathomable. And I say this as somebody who, like, when I was growing up, like, my dad and grandpa had a business, right? And it was kind of like a family business. They hired, like, my grandpa's best friend's family worked there. And it was like kind of like everybody that worked there was like somehow like a friend or a family member. And everybody got paid like pretty well. I think it was like $15 an hour in 2001, some 2002, like decent wages for like just being like a corner store in Kansas City. Like they sold pagers and cell phones and shit like that. But it was like definitely like a family unit. You know what I mean? It was basically like everybody's livelihood when it went out of business. Everybody was like totally fucked, right? You know what I mean? But the idea that you would be looking at those people as people to exploit and not like, holy shit, we have to make sure that this place stays in business so that everybody can fucking eat and buy Christmas presents and make sure their car gets fixed and all that stuff. Like, and I want to point out that all those family members, like ardent Republicans, like Ronald Reagan Republicans, like voted for Donald Trump, like those. And that was where their head was at as business people. So I just think that Cenk, when it comes down to it, he's fucking hard boiled. Like, progressive values are not ingrained in him as a businessman, right? It's pretty baffling. And Gavin, I tweeted this out the other day because I've been really like, how could he as an uncle, right? Like, how could you as a family member not just be so proud of Hasan? Like, why would you be jealous of the kid? You've done well for yourself. You're like, now the next generation's doing even better. Like, isn't that what you're supposed to hope for as you age? Like, you would be so proud that you were like, wow, I hired Hasan and now he's succeeding. But the bitterness towards Hasan makes sense now. Cenk lost him as a commodity he could exploit for profit, and now he gets to go see Hasan be the guy that Cenk wanted to be and is no longer. No. And even though he tried to exploit him, and even though he tried to keep him down, and even though he tried to, and he can turn around and like the Will guy said in the chat, he like tries to act like, he set you up for success because he was so hard on you and gaslight you with a bunch of bullshit. That's like almost like abusive behavior, like clinically, you know what I mean? Like, not like putting you through all this exploitative bullshit and then turning around when you're successful and trying to like be like, oh man, I'm the reason you're successful. It like sounds like my fucking mother.
Yeah, 100%. And not just the jealousy of seeing Hasan succeed in ways that TYT has not, but also, I mean, Hasan kind of pioneered the whole entire idea of being like a left-wing political streamer on Twitch. Honestly, kind of in the same way that Cenk did with YouTube. But then when Cenk tried to bring his operation over to Hasan's turf, I don't know if you guys remember that, but there was a real concerted effort for a few years to make TYT on Twitch a thing. It did not go well. It did not go well. I don't know if they lost any money in that endeavor, but either way, Cenk quickly realized that this was not his turf. That they may call themselves the Young Turks, but they're really the like Gen X Turks. And I think that's part of the reason why that they've really doubled down on some of the issues that they have doubled down on that we've talked about with great dismay, right? Because a lot of the issues that they do really, really talk about, the crime stuff, the Karen stuff, the trans stuff, it's kind of shit that like bougie Gen X people obsess about.
It's a generational thing. We've talked about it a lot, actually, because Gavin and I, it really, when we first came across it, was kind of baffling for us. We were like, yeah, we have trans homies. Like, no, it doesn't bother us. No, it's never really come up. Like, no, we just thought that was like something everybody was on board with. Like, if you are Gavin and I's age, when you were growing up, you met your first gay friend in like 7th grade and you were like, oh, that's what being a gay. Okay, cool. Yeah. What's up, homie? Nobody ever bats an eye. There were a few kids that you're like, those guys are assholes. They hate gay people. And then you just assume like gay, lesbian, trans, queer umbrella. You're like, yeah, dude, whatever.
Assuming you had cool parents like we did. I'm sure some people's parents,
you were one of the
brainwashed
assholes.
them.
I'm just saying that for the most part, like people who are our age, they just
Yeah.
grew up around queer people. They grew up around queer culture. It was normalized. It was accepted. All of us had homies. Like I mean, like I would say it was probably like a 50-50 split in my friend group in high school. Like, were you like a straight kid, right? Or like an LGBTQ kid? Like, it's almost crazy. Like nobody thought about it like that when you're our age. But back in the day, it was way less likely that you would come across like an out trans person when you were in your youth. And so they grew up thinking that wasn't really real. And it was like, no, dude, it just wasn't safe to be a trans person. So a lot of,
or you better keep it in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, freak show, underground climate. Don't bring it out. Don't bring it into the mainstream. Don't try to actually pretend that this is real. No, you gotta be a freak in the freak show if you want to participate in transsexual culture. That's the ideology of these people.
Yeah, that's actually a fucking really potent point, Gavin. It was not just don't do it. It was if you do it, pretend you're a freak, which is so like stomach churning and immoral and wrong. But that's exactly how it was. It was like the midnight culture, right? And that was queer culture. And now there's been such an effort over the last 25 years to really make queer culture something that's celebrated in the daylight. Also, that's why everybody got really pissed at Vosh when he was like, oh yeah, you guys should really just like smile down Pride. And it's like, fuck you, dude. The whole point of Pride was to be Pride in the daylight.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, pretty nutso development from Cenk Uygur. That's from 2021. And again, it's just Hasan sits on all this because he's like, oh, he's my uncle. I love him. Like, my family loves him. He's a good guy. And I'm like, I admire that Hasan is such a good dude deep down. And he's so like firmly believes in his family values that he's like, no, I don't believe that my uncle really like was trying to hurt me. I think he was trying to do what was best for everybody, but it just came out the wrong way. I'd be like, bro, I do not have that bone in me. Like, I'm a socialist, but once you've burned me, you've burned me. And I'll be like, go fuck yourself, dude. Like, I don't have that whole like, well, he's my uncle. You know what I mean? I'd be like, no, you tried to fuck me, dude, and get the hell out of here.
For the most part, I would agree, but I do think, and I can even relate to Hasan. Obviously, I'm not related to Cenk, but I was a big fan of the Young Turks for a while, and I still find myself being like, maybe there's a chance Cenk is a really good person at heart, and I always want to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I know that sounds crazy to you guys, considering the show that we do. Doesn't seem like we give him much benefit of the doubt, but I always hope that he is better than this, and that eventually there's some redemption for Cenk. Because I do like Cenk Uygur as a commentator, guys. That's what you guys, a lot of people don't realize. I think we're just haters. No, like a big part of the reason why this animates us so much, specifically me, is because I used to be a huge fan of the Young Turks. I really do feel like I learned a lot of what I know from Cenk Uygur, at least as far as politics and media. And it's just such a bummer, and it feels like a real betrayal to see it go down like this. Because I also would love to welcome Cenk back to the left, back to the fold. I'd love for him to be in the trenches next to us in this fight against fascism. And I relate to Hasan wanting to see the best in Cenk, even though it seems like the evidence is overwhelming at this point.
Look, I don't care about, Silly and Billy or whoever they are, right?